Chapter 1. An Invitation to Observe. From the story, their first glimpse of a human warship, and the alien Armada froze. The Galactic Concord had named it a Joint Cultural Exchange and Strategic Observation Mission. Humanity had a simpler word for it, a test. From the observation deck of the Unity's Reach, a sleek Terran diplomatic frigate barely 2 years off the slipway, Ambassador Elena Vasquez stared out into the shimmering swirl of stars orbiting the gas giant Melzari V. In the distance, the alien fleet, the pride of the Galactic Concord, maneuvered in dazzling symmetry, glimmering like a school of engineered fish. Vasquez sipped her coffee. They really want to impress us. Captain Tyrone Reddick stood beside her, arms crossed over his broad chest, eyes scanning every detail of the ships beyond. More like intimidate. Or distract us while they count our teeth. Do we bite? He gave her a sidelong glance. Only if they make us. Outside, the stars were temporarily eclipsed by the passage of a massive Zorani dreadnought, its hull gleaming obsidian, flanked by smaller escort ships like ducklings following a particularly homicidal mother. Beneath it drifted a Gliven swarm hive carrier, angular and humming with bioorganic energy pulses. Then the crystalline lances of the ACTheir warships began their ceremonial sweep, precision incarnate, down to the last micrometer. A voice crackled to life over the observation deck comms. Ambassador Vasquez, Captain Reddick, the Concord welcomes you to the orbital demonstration. Escort ships are en route to begin your guided tour. Elena tapped her wrist pad to respond. Acknowledged, Counselor Tyzek. We're honored. She muted the line and exhaled. I hate these little dances. Reddick gave a faint smirk. That's politics. Meanwhile, my team's patching microdrones into the comm relays. If they're going to parade their toys, we might as well log every gear tooth. Any sign they're on to us? He shook his head. They think we're here to observe, not analyze. Which is funny, because we brought more sensors than diplomats. Elena finished her coffee. Let's not get cocky, Tyrone. This is their backyard. Reddick's face tightened a bit. Yeah, but we've played in worse. The observation shuttle, a Concord-built crystal-winged skimmer, was clearly designed for show, not comfort. Smooth, sterile surfaces, bioluminescent lighting, zero privacy. The Zorani pilot was polite, if condescending, and the Gliven liaison that joined them clicked constantly in what was supposedly a neutral dialect but sounded suspiciously smug. They're scanning us constantly, Reddick muttered, voice low. Biometrics, neural heat maps, even sweat composition. Cute. Let them. Elena's expression remained neutral. We brought decoys. The shuttle glided past the outer picket line of the Concord Armada, revealing a sight that might have stunned any other race. Hundreds of ships, some kilometers long, others so alien in shape they defied classification, hung in orbit like an exhibition of galactic dominance. Beams of energy arced between formations in a simulated power grid test, and pulses of synchronized drive fields performed coordinated bursts of acceleration, mimicking full combat posture. The pilot beamed. Your Earth has never witnessed such harmony, I'm sure. No, Vasquez said diplomatically. We've never seen ships waste so much fuel for choreography. The pilot blinked, unsure if he was being insulted. Reddick was busy mentally dissecting the scene. They're centralized. That formation, it's hierarchical. You disable a flagship, and half the picket would fall into confusion. And the ACTheir split their sensors across formations, Elena added, quietly impressed. Efficient, but rigid. No fallback nodes. The two humans shared a brief glance. There was power here, yes, but also complacency. Back on the Unity's Reach, Lieutenant Rana Park watched a stream of data from the passive sensors being fed into the ship's combat database. Behind her, Specialist Kojo ran silent diagnostics, tagging every alien ship they could identify with power output estimates and shield harmonics. Cap's going to want full schematics cross-referenced by the time he gets back, Park muttered. Kojo cracked his knuckles. If these are their best? I'm almost insulted. Don't be. They've never had to fight something like us. Later that cycle, at the diplomatic reception aboard the Concord flagship Luminous Consensus, alien ambassadors swirled around Vasquez in a dance of niceties and layered subtext. They praised Earth's rapid development, in the same tone one might use when praising a dog for standing on 2 legs. She smiled, thanked them, and slowly turned their words back upon them. Meanwhile, Reddick stood with a cluster of military observers, Zorani, Gliven, and 2 ACTheir strategists. The Zorani, tall, glistening, and visibly armed, laughed as he approached. Terran, one said with a hissing accent, do your people always send soldiers to diplomatic events? Reddick's face didn't change. Only when we expect trouble. The Zorani bared his fangs. We see no warships in your delegation. That's because ours don't need to be seen. Silence. The Gliven strategist twitched in what was either amusement or alarm. The ACTheir spoke in perfect monotone. Humanity has risen quickly. But your lack of experience in true interstellar conflict leaves questions. Reddick's eyes didn't blink. We've never fought in your wars. But we've had our own. We learned the hard way that survival isn't about size or age. It's about how fast you can adapt when everything breaks. One of the ACTheir tilted its glassy head. You expect things to break? Always. As the night wore on, and the delegation returned to their ship, Elena sank into her chair in the command lounge and sighed. They think we're children. They think we're their children, Reddick corrected. And that they get to decide when we're allowed to grow up. And what do you think? Reddick turned toward the viewport, watching the glittering Armada rearrange itself in preparation for tomorrow's live-fire exercise. I think we let them think that a little longer. She raised an eyebrow. He smiled. While we plan for the day, we outgrow the sandbox. As the Unity's reach went into night cycle, lights dimming and shifts rotating down, a quiet chime echoed through the command deck. A message, flagged priority black. Park opened it. The content was simple. A line of encrypted text, no sender ID. Her eyes widened. She tapped a secure channel and summoned the captain. When Reddick arrived, she handed him the tablet. He read the line once. Then twice. TNS Vindicator has completed shadow insertion. Awaiting activation code. Reddick looked out at the stars again. Past the dancing lights and war-flaunting aliens, somewhere in the darkness, Earth's real answer was waiting. He nodded once. Let them keep dancing. Chapter 2. Parade of Power. From the story, their first glimpse of a human warship, and the alien Armada froze. The skies above the gas giant Melzari V blazed with calculated brilliance. A lattice of beam weapons arced between capital ships in a perfectly timed sequence, their colors varying by species, blue-white from the ACTheir crystalline emitters, acidic green from the Gliven swarm's biocannons, and deep crimson pulses from the Zorani antimatter projectors. It was a galactic light show disguised as a combat drill, and it played out with theatrical perfection. Inside the human frigate Unity's reach, Captain Tyrone Reddick remained impassive. He leaned forward in his command chair, one gloved hand resting against his cheek, the other tapping rhythmically on the armrest. Below the main viewport, an augmented display sketched real-time schematics of the enemy fleet movements, compiled and enhanced by the stealth drones he'd released the night before. Lieutenant Park, seated at the tactical station, glanced up. They're burning through enough energy to light a megacity for a decade. Looks impressive, Reddick said. Until you realize they're just showing off for the cameras. No decentralization. No dynamic threat adaptation. Just like their council structure, Park murmured. Reddick didn't laugh. They built this whole thing for us. So let's take notes. From the diplomatic skiff provided for high-level observers, Ambassador Elena Vasquez watched the drill through polarized crystal. A Gliven escort stood beside her, its mandibles twitching in what it likely believed was enthusiasm. The harmony of our joint fleet represents the pinnacle of interstellar unity, it clicked. No single race could achieve such coordination alone. Vasquez gave a serene nod. Impressive choreography. Is it practical in combat? The Gliven paused, just a heartbeat too long. In real engagements, our fleets act in localized clusters. This demonstration is idealized. In other words, Vasquez said, voice light and casual, this is a dance. Not a war. The insectoid ambassador said nothing. From her earpiece, Reddick's voice crackled through a secure diplomatic channel. Tell the bugs their idealized fleet has a 5-second command relay delay across the central wings. Anyone with EMP netting could fracture that line before they knew it was broken. Vasquez kept her expression neutral. Noted. On the Unity's reach, Specialist Kojo grinned as he watched a Concorde cruiser stall mid-rotation, disrupting one of the laser patterns. There it is. First hiccup. Park leaned in. Crew failed a momentum sync. Gliven design, ACTheir crew. Cross-spec interfaces are glitchy. Reddick didn't look away from the feed. Mark that for file. They'll cover it up and call it minor, but it's proof the Alliance isn't built for war, it's built for ceremony. Want us to adjust our probe net? Negative. Let them keep performing. We'll be the judges backstage. An hour into the drill, the Concorde invited the humans to a closer pass. A pair of ACTheir guide vessels moved to flank the Unity's reach, transmitting precise flight paths and cautionary restrictions. Reddick played polite. We appreciate the access, he said over open channel, and will stay within your lanes. Privately, his hand sent a silent command through his neural interface. Below the ship's hull, 5 stealth drones, each the size of a lunchbox and coated in radar-absorbent polymers, detached and drifted away into the black. Their instructions were simple. Scan heat signatures, shield calibration, and weapons alignment protocols from within 10 kilometers of the enemy's core. Stealth birds away, Park confirmed on encrypted line. Keep our emissions scrubbed, Reddick replied. We want to look like tourists. The Unity's reach cruised silently along the edge of the formation, flanked by glittering alien ships. Each vessel was different, some sharp and spiny, others flowing like organic sculptures. To any observer, it looked like the Terran ship was a visiting guest of honor. In truth, it was a surgeon's scalpel, mapping weak points. Midway through the parade, an alert flared on Park's board. Energy spike. Forward quadrant. Zorani cruiser just surged its reactor. Reddick leaned in. Unscheduled. Confirmed. Targeting arrays live. They're locking onto us. No discharge yet. Trying to scare us, Kojo muttered. Testing our reaction. Don't blink, Reddick ordered. Route power to shields. Quietly. And tell Vasquez. On the skiff, Vasquez's brow arched as the notification came through. Oh dear, she said aloud, watching the faint glow gather at the Zorani cruiser's cannon maw. Her ACTheir escort noticed her concern and turned. Ambassador, you seem troubled. That ship's weapons system is active. Just curious whether that's part of the performance. The ACTheir glanced toward the cruiser and stiffened. It is not. Before Vasquez could respond, the Zorani ship fired. The crimson bolt didn't strike the Unity's reach, but it came close. Too close. The shockwave rattled its hull. Automatic proximity alarms lit up. Non-impact warning shot, Park barked. Calm and steady, Reddick said. No retaliation. The alien comms line chirped. A Zorani voice cut in. Apologies. Calibration error. No harm intended. Reddick gave it a beat, then answered coldly. Acknowledged. His hand tapped a new code. Blackout protocol initiated, Park said instantly. Cloak engaged. Emissions silenced. The Unity's reach vanished from Concorde sensors. Chaos erupted across the alien fleet. From the Concorde flagship luminous consensus, confusion reigned. What do you mean the human ship is gone? Snapped Counselor Tyzek, tendrils flailing. Vanished. No warp signature, no sensor trail. It simply disappeared. Impossible. Nothing can hide from ACTheir scans. But even their elite scanners showed only empty space. Then a new alert sounded. A vessel had appeared, unannounced, unregistered, unscanned. It wasn't part of the Unity's reach. It was something else. At the heart of the Concorde formation, the TNS Vindicator decloaked. 50 times the size of the diplomatic ship, its hull was dark as obsidian but crisscrossed with deep crimson veins, coolant lines pulsing faintly. No exotic curves. No gleaming artistry. Just brutal angular slabs of reinforced composite armor, bristling with weapon bays, launch tubes, and emitter turrets. Every Concorde command ship received the same transmission. Terran Naval Ship Vindicator. Class: Strategic Dreadnought. Status: Observation Mode. Do not engage. You are within targeting range. Dozens of ships immediately tried to back away. Others froze. No one had seen it arrive. No one knew how long it had been there. On board Vindicator, Commander Haley Tran sat calmly in her command throne, surrounded by a quietly humming AI interface. A soft voice, her ship's AI, Ariadne, spoke in her ear. All targeting solutions are locked. Shall I display weapon overlays for their benefit? Tran considered. Not yet. Let them feel it in their bones first. Ariadne hummed. They are afraid. Good. That means they understand. Back on Unity's reach, power remained low, but systems had begun whisper-level scans again. Reddick's eyes never left the viewport. He wasn't smiling. Not quite. Let them stare, he said quietly. Vasquez returned to the ship shortly after, walking onto the bridge as the Vindicator loomed in the distance. You triggered the contingency, she said. They fired a warning shot. That wasn't an act of war. No, Reddick agreed. But it was a declaration of arrogance. She walked beside him, staring at the silent behemoth outside. Now what? Now we wait, he said. Let them decide if they want to negotiate or surrender. Chapter 3, Checkmate Position. From the story, their first glimpse of a human warship, and the alien Armada froze. The Armada was frozen. Hundreds of alien vessels, each a marvel of technology, culture, and power, now sat in tense, absolute stillness as the TNS Vindicator hovered in their midst like a ghost from a forgotten war. No weapon fired, no maneuver initiated, no word spoken. It was the silence before a storm, or before surrender. On board the luminous Consensus, Concord Counselor Tyzek's voice broke that silence with trembling disbelief. Where did it come from? The ACTheir sensor chief spoke without the usual composure. There was no warp distortion. No cloak signature. Not even gravitational drag. It was simply there. The Gliven Admiral buzzed in alarm. No ship that large can operate undetected. It violates all known physics. Tyzek's eyes burned with dread. Then perhaps our physics are obsolete. Back aboard Unity's reach, the mood was more clinical than triumphant. Captain Reddick stood at the holotable, studying the Concord fleet's scattered postures. Nearly a third of the ships had begun repositioning defensively. Another third had quietly retreated from the center of the formation. The final third, mostly Zorani dreadnoughts and ACTheir command ships, remained in place, either too proud or too stunned to move. They don't know if they're under attack, said Lieutenant Park. Which is smart. Because they could be. Let them sit in that uncertainty, Reddick replied. Fear is a better teacher than violence. Ambassador Vasquez approached, tapping through diplomatic message logs. We're receiving frantic missives from nearly every Concord race. Some demanding an explanation, others begging for clarification. Let me guess, Reddick said, none of them admit they're afraid. She smirked. They use phrases like unexpected power demonstration and strategic overreach. He turned back to the viewport, where the Vindicator floated like a leviathan, silent, still, and watching. No overreach. This is checkmate posture. On board the TNS Vindicator, Commander Haley Tran stood in front of a wide display that showed live threat mapping across the Concord fleet. Red nodes marked ships with active weapon locks. Yellow for those powering shields. Blue for panicked diplomatic vessels trying to backpedal from the confrontation. Ariadne, the ship's AI, spoke in her calm voice. Enemy formations are now cycling through 24 simultaneous evasive simulations. All ineffective. Project those on their channels. Tactical overlays will be transmitted on open frequencies in 5 seconds. Tran nodded once. Show them that we see them. Throughout the Concord fleet, holographic projections flickered into existence on bridge command stations. Each showed a terrifying image, their own ship, targeted. Crosshairs. Trajectory estimates. Shield penetration forecasts. Hull breach simulations. Each one was labeled in Terran Standard. Solution locked. Firing option withheld. The message was clear, we could kill you. We choose not to. Tyzek slammed a tentacle on the console. This is intimidation. No, the ACTheir ambassador said slowly. This is deterrence. Within the Unity's reach, Ambassador Vasquez summoned the Concord's high command to a live diplomatic transmission. Dozens of alien faces filled the display, Glyvan clicking, Zorani growling, ACTheir crystalline features shimmering uneasily, and dozens of smaller species clustered behind their senior leaders. A digital war council had formed. Vasquez stood calmly before them. Esteemed members of the Concord, I understand this demonstration has caused distress. That was not our goal. Tyzek hissed. Then what was your goal, Ambassador? To correct a misunderstanding. She stepped aside and gestured to a real-time hologram of the Vindicator. For weeks, we've heard talk of unity, of progress, of galactic harmony. But beneath those ideals, there's been something else, an assumption. That humanity is young, primitive, unproven. That we've come to learn, not to contribute. Murmurs rippled through the alien delegates. Vasquez continued, voice sharpening. So we brought the Vindicator not to frighten you, but to remind you that Earth has learned different lessons. Not in laboratories. Not on council floors. But in the fires of near extinction. We don't build ships to parade them. We build them to survive. Survive what? Barked a Zorani general. Everything, Vasquez said. Climate collapse. AI rebellion. Grey plague. War with itself. We've bled for our place among the stars. You mock us for being late to your councils. What you don't understand is that we were never invited. We forced our way in. Commander Tran sent her final signal. Ariadne's voice returned, initiating low-orbit ignition maneuver. Minimal thrust. High visibility. Outside, the Vindicator flared to life. Titanic thrusters lit up in sequence, casting the gas giant in new shades of red and gold. The dreadnought lifted slightly, rotated 40 degrees, and then reversed, without emitting a single gravitational ripple. The laws of physics seemed to bend around her, reshaped by silent graviton emitters too advanced for Concord sensors to track. To the alien fleet, it was nothing short of sorcery. Specialist Kojo, watching from Unity's reach, whistled low. They're gonna need a bigger pantsuit. Park looked up. You mean pants? He grinned. I stand by my choice. On the Concord Council feed, silence once again held sway. Finally, a quiet voice broke it. The ACTheir delegate said, You should have told us. Reddick stepped into the frame beside Vasquez. Would you have believed us? Tyzek struggled to regain the narrative. This isn't diplomacy, it's provocation. Vasquez smiled slightly. It's perspective. Then tell us, the Glyvan ambassador said slowly, what is your perspective? She stepped forward. Humanity was forged in chaos. That taught us one thing, peace must be enforced. Not by fear, not by violence, but by capability. The Vindicator is not a threat. It's a promise. A promise of what? Tyzek spat. That the next war will never reach your doorstep. Because if it does. She glanced at Reddick. He finished it for her. We'll be the ones standing in the way. As the council disconnected and the feed vanished, Vasquez let out a slow breath. That went better than expected. Better for who? Reddick said. For everyone, she answered. Because now they know we don't bluff. Later that cycle, in the private war room aboard the Vindicator, Tran watched updated simulations. Ariadne whispered in her ear, Concord fleets are rerouting. No new targeting locks. Posture is now 89% defensive. Good, Tran said. Let them digest. Ariadne paused. You understand the risk we took? I do. Then why take it? Tran looked at the Terran flag etched into the alloyed wall. Because every empire out there respects strength. But none of them expected us to match them. Not this fast. And now? Now, she said, we're playing on equal ground. As Earth's warship rotated again and began to drift silently back into the shadow of Melzari V, many in the Concord watched not with hatred, but with a dawning sense of respect. A new player had entered the field. One forged not by legacy or ancient power, but by something far more terrifying. Determination. Chapter 4, You've Awakened a Human Response. From the story, their first glimpse of a human warship, and the alien Armada froze. The Concord Council was in emergency session. Again. But this time, there was no shouting. No posturing. No threats. Just silence. They had seen the Vindicator. They had seen the targeting overlays. They had seen the impossibilities. Mass displacement with no gravity wake, a cloaked battleship larger than most space stations, and silent drives that made mockery of basic propulsion theory. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy finally understood. Earth wasn't just here to join the table. It was here to flip it. Counselor Tyzek of the Zorani was the first to break the silence. We can't allow this to stand. That warship violates 3 interstellar treaties. Counselor Veln, ACTheir delegate, replied carefully. Treaties signed before humans arrived. Before we knew what they were capable of. They should have come in peace. Tyzek snapped. They did, Veln said. We just didn't listen. Tyzek bared his fangs. Now they think they can intimidate us. From the back of the chamber, Admiral Torvek of the Gliven spoke in a gravelly tone. That wasn't intimidation. That was calculation. Tactical perfection. I studied war all my life. I've never seen anything like that ship. There was a murmur of agreement from unexpected quarters. Even some of the smaller species, the cautious Verlin, the data-minded Krish, nodded. Because behind their fear was something else. Relief. Something out there could actually stop the Zorani. Could hold the ACTheir in check. Could enforce peace through sheer presence. An alien voice whispered across the chamber. Maybe we needed this. Back aboard the Unity's Reach, Captain Reddick sipped from his battered thermos and gazed out into the void. The Vindicator was now distant, cloaked once again, orbiting Melzari V like a patient ghost. The storm it left behind was still raging. Ambassador Vasquez approached him at the viewport. We've received 28 direct communiques from Concord factions, she said. 17 requests for ship technology negotiations. 8 offers of mutual defense treaties. 3 asking us not to show up anywhere unannounced again. Reddick raised an eyebrow. That last one's fair. She smiled. But the biggest one came from Tyzek's faction. They've proposed a resolution. A new defense pact. Reddick blinked. They're asking us to protect them? More like, to promise we won't wipe them out. He laughed softly. Diplomacy is just war with punctuation. In the war room of the TNS Vindicator, Commander Haley Tran reviewed the tactical logs, watching again the panicked fleet maneuvers, the fragmented command responses, the signs of doctrinal collapse under human pressure. Ariadne, her ship's AI, floated in her ear again. Would you like me to summarize the Concord's current posture? Go ahead. Strategic realignment. Doctrinal uncertainty. High-value threat recognition. In human terms, they're spooked, recalibrating, and impressed. Tran smiled. Then we did our job. Would you like to hear Admiral Hayes' response? She perked up. Play it. A moment passed, then the old voice of Admiral Hayes, Terran Strategic Command, filled the room. Well done, Vindicator team. You didn't just walk into the lion's den. You showed them the lion had teeth made of neutronium and a tactical mind like a scalpel. But don't get cocky. They're aliens, scared ones. Which means they'll do something dumb soon. Be ready. Tran paused the message. He's not wrong. Ariadne added gently. Also, he said to tell Kojo to stop making memes of the Zorani Admiral's face. Too late, Tran muttered. They've gone viral. In the Concord Strategic Command Nexus, Counselor Tyzek convened a secret meeting with war planners from multiple factions. He paced angrily in front of a map of the Terran border. They say they want peace, but they parade a warship into our diplomatic space? Perhaps we underestimated them, offered the ACTheir Admiral. No, Tyzek snarled. We let them surprise us. That was our mistake. One we must correct. A Zorani general leaned forward. Do you propose we strike first? Tyzek's tentacles twitched. I propose we remind them they are still new to this galaxy. But the humans had expected this. Aboard the Unity's Reach, sensors lit up. Multiple warp signatures, Park reported. Zorani, Gliven, and secondary fleet elements, all vectoring toward Terran space. Reddick narrowed his eyes. Not an attack. A show of force. Vasquez nodded. They want to scare us back. They think we'll flinch. He tapped the comm. Get me the Vindicator. Moments later, in high orbit above Melzari V, the Vindicator uncloaked again. Not for show. For response. Aboard its bridge, Commander Tran received live intel. Enemy formations. Target vectors. Coordinated signals, probing Earth's border defenses. Ariadne, she said quietly. Light up the stars. With pleasure. Across 10 sectors, Terran ghost fleets revealed themselves. Dozens of warships, smaller than the Vindicator, but still lethal, decloaked simultaneously. Each had been silently monitoring Concorde movements, undetected, sitting in key jump lanes and high-threat corridors. And every single one already had a targeting solution prepared. To the Concorde, it was a death blow to morale. For every move they made, humanity had already countered it. A Gliven tactician moaned, "They're playing a different game entirely." Back in the council chambers, Councillor Veln stood. "We called them barbarians. Now they teach us restraint." Tyzek was seething. "We must retaliate." "No," Veln said. "We must adapt." Later that cycle, the final meeting took place. In orbit above the gas giant, aboard a neutral Concorde station, humanity met the Concorde Council face to face. The room was tense. Silent. Everyone waited for the confrontation. Ambassador Vasquez broke the silence. "You wanted to see our teeth. You've seen them. But understand this, we do not seek conquest. We do not demand tribute. We ask only for respect." Tyzek growled. "You bring warships to peace talks and call that respect?" Captain Reddick stepped forward. "We brought warships so you'd stop thinking of Earth as prey." A moment passed. Then Admiral Torvek stood. "I once said humans were reckless. That they would disrupt the galactic order." He looked at Vasquez. "I was right." And then he bowed. But perhaps the order needed disrupting. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Slowly, other species lowered their heads as well. Tyzek remained standing. But silent. That night, Vasquez sent the final report to Earth. First Contact Doctrine revised. Mission success. The galaxy knows us now, not as primitives, but as peers. Fear was never the goal. But if that's the language they speak, then Earth has become fluent. Epilogue. Somewhere, deep in Terran Strategic Command, a display lit up. Concorde threat status. Downgraded. Humanity's status. Confirmed power. And in a quiet orbital drydock, 3 more warships like the Vindicator were under construction. Just in case. Because the galaxy had just received a message. You don't provoke Earth. You awaken a human response.